Hi there, it's Jen for Whimsy Stamps, and thanks so much for joining me today. Today I'm using the stamp set Dudley's Valentine, and I'm going to be watercoloring cute little Dudley, as well as doing some die cut layering on the Slimline cards. And this Dudley's Valentine stamp set has several Dudleys in it. There's Dudley in a cup, there's a Cupid Dudley, and then there is a Dudley with a heart balloon and some flowers. And there's also a smaller stamp that is a heart with some wings on it, as well as several sentiments. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of watercoloring today with markers. And so I've got my little container of water as well as my markers and I believe it's a size 6 a paintbrush. And the paper that I am using for this is Bristol Smooth. And if you were comparing Bristol Smooth to an actual watercolor paper, it would be most similar to a hot press, which basically just means there's very little tooth. So a hot press paper is pretty smooth, where a cold press paper has the little ridges and valleys in it. And so I find that when I am doing especially watercoloring with non-watercoloring mediums. So for instance, markers and some of the brush markers, I think the Bristol Smooth cardstock is, I prefer to use it. And so basically what I'm going to do is put a layer of color on first. And so I am just taking one color of marker, which cuts kind of a pink or a rose tone. And I'm going to go over the entire image where I want that color. I am starting out putting that color in the areas where there would be shadows, and then I am just taking my brush and kind of swiping along that line and bringing it out. You don't need that much marker color, especially when you're using darker colors to add. It's a little harder to move the lighter colors around just because they're light. There's not as much pigment in them. So you might want to add a little bit more of the lighter colors. But the Bristol Smooth and hot pressed watercolor paper are great for glazing, which is basically adding layers. And so that is what I am doing. I've added the first layer and then I've gone over and went back in either 1 or 2 times more just to add more detail. And then after I'm done watercoloring, I like to go in with my colored pencils to add even more detail, a little more darkness in the shadows, or to add a pencil in areas where it's small and hard to watercolor. And so I went ahead and did that. And then I'm going to take a white paint pen and I'm just making little dots all over Dudley. And I've gone ahead and cut Dudley out using my electronic die cutting machine. And then I'm going to grab this die, and it's a Slimline Waves die. And I've cut a white border, so that's going to be the border of my Slimline card. But I've also used it to cut out some of the pieces of pattern paper. So the pattern paper I'm using on this card is this blue background paper. It's got hearts on both. It's really super cute. So basically I just took the die and put it over the top half of the 6x6 paper and cut out several of those little shapes. And then I'm going to also use another die for this, which is a new release, and that is called the Slimline Envelope Edger die. And so I'm going to be using the edger that has the scallops on it, and it's got tiny little hearts. Several dies come in this pack. They can be used for slimline cards. They can be used for this 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So they're really versatile in that. And what I'm going to do is layer these 2 die cuts. So I've already cut it out using the envelope edger, and then I'm going to place it behind that Slimline Waves die so that I can insert some of these pieces onto my frame that I've created. And I just love the look of this die with the little scallops and then the tiny little hearts. It is super cute. And then next I'm going to take a white panel, and I'm going to take that Slimline Waves die and add glue to the back of it, and I will adhere that to the white panel. So this will allow me to go ahead and insert my 6x6 paper pieces, as well as those white pieces of paper that I've used the envelope edger die on. And so I'm just gonna, I dry fit it first before I made the commitment to adhere it, just to make sure that the papers were in the slots that I wanted them to be. And by layering these 2 dies, it's a great way to add some visual texture without using an embossing folder or adding paste, because you have the kind of the texture of the stitched areas around the waves die, and then you have the texture of the scallops and the hearts with the envelope edger die. So it creates this really nice visual look of texture. And I have used my tape runner to go ahead and adhere all those pieces. And then I am going to take these hearts, which I have been using for several cards. And these hearts are left over from a project I did using the Hearts Frameline die. Frameline, that's not right, Jen. A Hearts background die. And so I have a lot of little pieces I just put in a container, and I'm just using those on a lot of the cards that I am making for Valentine's Day. I went ahead and I stamped up the sentiment that says "To My True Love," and I used some black pigment ink for that. And then I am adhering my panel onto a white card base. The card base is a little less than 3.5 by a little less than 8.5. I am so horrible at measurements, but it's just a tiny bit less than a half, whatever that measurement is. And then I thought it was missing something, so I went ahead and I grabbed some black twine and put that in the center fold of the card, and then just tied a knot. And I saved you the pain of watching me try and create a bow. And so I went ahead and made a bow and attached that with a glue dot. And that will finish off this card. I added a few sequins. I hope you liked this video. If you did like it or find it informative, please go ahead and give a thumbs up. If you're interested in these products or are looking for some Whimsy inspiration, there are the Whimsy social media links. Hope you can join us there. And again, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon.